All right, welcome everybody. This is episode 6 of the Romera Records podcast. Again, we have on John. Is your last name pronounced Wichert?
Wichert. Yeah.
Okay, I think I pronounced it that last time, but I was listening to somebody, and I'm pretty sure they said Wichert or Wichert.
Yeah.
And in class, and I was like, have I been pronouncing it wrong this whole time?
And I get that all the time. Honestly, half the time I don't even pay attention. If it's remotely close, I just say yeah here or whatever. So because I get Wichert, Wichert, all sorts of stuff. So it doesn't even faze me anymore. I just go with it. But yeah, no, you got it right.
Nice. So last time we talked a good bit about your Coast Guard career and got a little bit into politics and stuff. Yeah. But you said you want to talk a little bit about college, a little bit of sports and stuff.
Well, it kind of springboard off a conversation we had. I don't even remember how long ago now.
Yeah.
Week. So Friday, whenever, about college sports and the money involved and how the money from your big football schools or your big basketball schools kind of go and pay for a lot of different things on campus or whatever it may be, and it's just amazing the amount of money that comes in. And I know we had that case. I think it was Northwestern University a couple of years ago, 5 maybe longer than that, but they tried to get themselves paid for their likeness, and because these colleges are profiting off these kids with the promise of an education, which is worth a fair amount depending upon which institution you go to, but the amount of money that the school is making in comparison to what these players could be making or should be making or off these players is astronomical. Just the difference. It's just amazing that these guys don't get paid for what they do. I get it because they're student athletes and the NCAA is a ruling body. We'll call it that. Yeah. That's coming from a Miami fan, so
that's being nice.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. I can't. Just for example, with that Tate Martell thing, and I'm a Miami fan, so I relate to Miami. I know the NCAA hates Miami, so they drag that Tate Martell thing out as long as possible, whether he got his waiver or not, because through this whole new transfer portal, which what do you think about? What are your thoughts on this transfer portal?
So I am not a fan.
No.
So I was listening to somebody talk about it, and they were talking about how it was Lane Kiffin of all people. Lane Kiffin. He was talking about how it's just trying to draw attention to the player. They're saying I'm in the transfer portal. Look at me, that type of mentality, and I'm all for the free agency of college football as long as they are consistent with it. So if you are going to deny some players the ability to transfer and play automatically, and then other players do get that ability, then I'm not for it. But if everybody wants to transfer and everybody can play automatically, sure, why not? If the kids, they're kids, they can go to college, they can go wherever they want to. They have that option. That's why they get the scholarships, that's why they get the offers. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be inconsistent with it, then don't do it. But if they can do whatever they want to, sure, why not?
And it's crazy too. You kind of back to the Tate Martell thing, where because he transferred, he wasn't the graduate transfer. He was going to have to, per NCAA rules, he was going to have to sit out for the year. But because of this hardship waiver, and to me, you're like you said, you can't discriminate between who gets to play right away, who doesn't get to play. Are you only going to keep the portal limited to graduate transfers? How is that going to work? I love the idea that the player, all he has to do is notify his coach, say, hey, I want to transfer, I want to be in this portal, and the coach has no bearing in it whatsoever. He kind of has his own free will. That kind of takes. I could see how a coach may keep a player or want to keep a player and deny him from transferring out. So I think it gives the player the ability, more freedom, I guess would be the word. But yeah, when it comes to the discrimination on who gets a waiver, who can play, to me there's got to be more of a standard. More like we need more rules, but more rules when it comes to how it's set up, which is interesting and above my pay grade. How they're going to figure that out.
Absolutely.
But it's crazy because it really sets up free agency in college football. You either need to do away with the restrictions on you have to sit out for a year, and then it truly becomes a free agency, minus the money.
Yeah.
But and how they have it set up now is you have to apply for these waivers, and you have to have, if you're not a graduate transfer, and it's just gonna, I see, like you said, it kind of comes in where they're gonna have to make decisions on who gets what, or else it's just gonna be a fucking free-for-all, you know? So, but it's just, it's wild with that Tate Martell thing. They dragged it out so long.
Yeah.
How long does it take to decide, okay, did he have a hardship or did he not?
Yeah.
And I think the NCAA, somebody needs to oversee the overseers when it comes to that, and that's once again coming from a Miami fan. So I know I'm biased. When it comes to that.
But even even on top of that, this goes much deeper than just regulating on how or where a kid goes to school. This is also the fact of it's changing a kid's mindset. Because, I keep saying kids, most of them are freaking grown men. But
they're kids at the end of the day. Yeah. They really are. They're huge, huge kids, but they're still kids mentality-wise, a lot of them.
So on top of that, it's you're the, what do they call it, the generation of, they feel like they're entitled.
Yeah.
So you take Tate Martell, who was like a 4 or 5 star quarterback coming out of high school, and the reason why he transferred was because Justin Fields came in. Justin Fields was like the number 1, number 2 overall player in that class. And the reason why he left Georgia was because Jake Fromm was still lighting it up.
Yeah.
And so Justin Fields was like, well, I'm not getting
playing time.
I'm not
to
getting
make it to the big show.
I'm not getting what I want out of Georgia. Georgia's getting what they want out of me, but I'm not getting what I want out of them. So I'm going to go ahead and move. He moves on to a school that he thought was going to put in the best position to win championships or just play. And he goes to Ohio State. And then Ohio State already has Tate Martell. And Tate was like, did you see that tweet that Tate had?
Which one?
Tate said, "Don't swing twice and miss," or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that, once again, that shows that they're kids, their immaturity level when it comes to social media stuff. And it's crazy how, what they say. And to me, I'd rather just, kind of shut the fuck up and do my job. But back to your point, it's kind of them. At the end of the day, they want to make it to the NFL as their ultimate goal with these 4 or 5 star recruits. Not to say that Ed Reed was a 2-star recruit out of high school. He's one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. Not to say only 4 and 5 stars want to make it to the NFL, but in this case, obviously they want to showcase their talent, and they need a school or a program that is going to let them do that.
Correct.
And they're going to be able. They want to transfer, and goes back to it's a business. It's truly a business. It's not student athlete. I mean, they are student athletes, but it's a fucking business at the end of the day, and they're profiting so much off these kids. So I don't blame them that they want to set themselves up and maneuver themselves to the best of their ability to be able to showcase what talent they think they bring.
Correct.
So I love it. I think they should just turn it into a free-for-all, honestly, mostly because I love when it comes to chaos and anarchy with that stuff. And you put the best product on the field, and really, at the end of the day, what's football for? It's for entertainment.
And all it's going to do is just make the game better.
Exactly.
Because if you've got those kids, so you got teams like Alabama. They've got all these 4 or 5 star players, and when they don't get the playing time they want to, they leave.
They're out. Yeah.
And so that helped at Ohio State. Alabama had the number 1 cornerback in the nation, and Kendall Sheffield. Kendall Sheffield left after 1 year and went to Ohio State. He had to sit out a year at Ohio State, and then actually no. I think he went to what's that community? Blinn College at what's his name? Cam Newton went to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think Kendall Sheffield went to Blinn College and then went to Ohio State, and then so he played there, and now he's doing okay. He's not doing amazing, but he's doing pretty well. But at the same time, all he had to do was just stay at Alabama, and he would have been starting either the next year or the year after that. All you had to do is just stay.
and that kind of goes back to the generational thing, like you said, the instant generation. Like, they want everything now. They don't want to have to sit back and kind of learn the ways of somebody who may have been there before them.
Yeah.
They come out of high school, their heads, they've been recruited since they were like fucking 14 years old. Even younger, a lot of the times for these.
They're getting scholarships at 14.
Yeah, they're getting, I don't blame them, it goes to their head. They're getting offers from 4 and 5 different schools when they're in 9th grade playing usually JV football, and they're getting these coaches coming in talking about how they're going to be the next best thing and they can lead their program to the promised land, and I don't blame them for letting it go to their head. I probably would too. Not that I ever got recruited when I was 14 years old for anything, but so I don't blame him. And that goes, once again, we keep circling back to the money. Like, just the amount of money spent in recruiting. And you look at Nick Saban, flying his helicopter and his private jets all over. And something that was crazy, Tua, when he hurt his leg, they were flying him to on a private jet to go get treatment or something with that. Yeah, I can't remember what it was for, but I know because of his injury, that was it for the Heisman ceremony. I think because he had to do certain amount of treatment, they gave him a private jet to fly to New York from Alabama. Crazy. Yeah, just the amount of money that comes through, and it kind of goes into even just money getting into school. I don't know if you saw the story that broke, I don't know, last week or the week before, about these celebrities and these rich parents trying to get their kids into college and paying these astronomical amounts of money.
So go a little bit more into that. I saw it was I keep seeing on Yahoo it's like a mom and like 2 daughters or something like that, but it said something about USC and paying money for what was it about, really?
So there was this guy who set up kind of a sham charity for these rich parents to pay into this charity and get their kids into whatever institution they're trying to go to. One of them was USC. The big one that came out was her name was Lori Loughlin, and she was she was on Full House, I think it was. Oh, okay. She was the aunt on Full House. And she was paying for her daughters to get into USC. And I guess one of her daughters, Olivia Jade, is a influencer, Instagram influencer, and it made it so much worse because they had her on video saying, I'm excited for college. I'm going to talk to my professors. I'm excited for the parties, and I'm really not that excited about going to school. And now it comes out that her parents paid some astronomical amount of money to get her into that school. And I can't imagine how, if I got it's around the same time where she got an acceptance letter and I got denied from USC, I'd be fucking pissed.
Absolutely.
Because some rich fucking parents paid to get their kids into school.
Yeah.
I mean, they were going as far as this guy who ran this sham charity to get them into school. They were like getting them in on athlete scholarships, and they were cutting and pasting, photoshopping their kid's head onto like stock photos of athletes.
No.
Yeah, they were going to amazing lengths. How the school didn't find out is beyond me. Yeah, they were photoshopping. I think it was Olivia Jade or some. They said she was on the crew team, like the rowing team. She never rowed a day in her life.
Oh my god.
And the thing that got me and made me laugh was that they were photoshopping these kids' heads onto like stock photos of athletes, and submitting it that they were going to be athletes.
Dude, so that goes to show you the links that people, not only the links that people will go to make that happen,
especially if you have the money.
Yeah, but the as you were saying, the oversight of what is the operations.
Yeah.
there's no strict, like for the average person, the person whose parents aren't making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's hard to get into a school that you want to that is pretty prestigious. You see those videos online of kids that have their whole family around them when they get into like Harvard or Columbia, Yale, stuff like that. And those schools, are obviously hard to get into, the Ivy Leagues, but when you have, your public schools of like, the USCs or Alabama, stuff like that, those schools, people get excited to get into them, but for them to make it that kind of like stacked order of, I've got more money than you, I can get that sounds very high schoolish.
And something that came out too that I didn't even realize, they have these college career coaches that will literally, you can buy for your kid starting in 9th grade, and they'll navigate you through the process. Like, you decide which school you want to go to, and then they'll tell you, they're basically a paid consultant for your kid to like, okay, you should do this, this, and this. You should do this extracurricular activity because this will do this. And they basically, you pay them, I would imagine, upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably into the millions, to navigate your child to get them to a college that they want to go to or that their parents want them to go to.
Yeah.
So you got to think half the time they probably don't even care
Yeah.
as a kid. But just the amount of money flowing through college is insane. And you look at the price of an education, how far it's rose in price over the last, 20 years versus what your expected job is out of college making, your salary.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
That's why, and you hear all these kids in debt today coming out of college, just astronomical amounts of debt for their liberal arts degree, myself included, poli-sci major right here, So it's crazy how much money is being spent because there's such a promise of, oh, you go to college after high school, you get a job, you make this, blah, 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 blah. And it goes back to tech schools are looking way better, having a trade, having an apprenticeship. You apprentice for 3 to 4 years, and you're making the same as if you went to college for 4 years with now there's exclusions for like STEM degrees and being a doctor or a lawyer, but if you go for your photography degree, there's not a whole lot in general when it comes out. You're not going to be making enough to pay that back right away.
Correct.
So not to say that there's anything wrong with photography, it's cool, but at the end of the day, photography is not paying as much as engineering.
Correct.
So it's just insane the amount of money and the lengths athletes, coaches, parents, administrators, everybody will go to get more money flowing through their institution. I mean, you look at the buildings being built all across campuses across this country. There's just so much money being poured into these campuses, and a lot of it comes from donations, sports, athletics, your TV deals for especially schools like Alabama, where they have an entire network dedicated to the SEC. You got to think how much money is the SEC making off that, as well as the schools, and it's being tossed around. But also the flip side, which is good, is I know you mentioned the Alabama women's softball team. It allows, because of that money that the football and in bigger schools, basketball schools, that money that they bring in, it allows for the other teams that wouldn't necessarily attract as much money or an audience to have the ability to play and go undefeated like the Alabama girls softball team is. So there's good parts to it, and there's also, in my opinion, a lot of bad parts to the amount of money.
So something I want to go, I guess, a bit of a tangent on is, I'm not a feminist by any means, but I have always been an advocate for women, I guess, just standing up for themselves and not just, I guess, quote unquote, blaming men for what's going on. Do men rule the world?
Debatable.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But
for sure.
Yeah. But so that brings on the topic of the sports in general. Alabama's women's softball team, undefeated.
Yeah, they're like 22-0 or whatever it is. Yeah. I just saw the article the other day.
Only undefeated team in college softball. Men's basketball team, they were a greatly, I guess, a team that people just thought that they were going to do well because of Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson came in, he was the Mavericks head coach. He got fired from there, I believe, and then he had a stint where he was just a commentator, comes in to become the basketball coach, and they just had great promise. They thought that they were going to be great, bring in good recruits because their head coach used to be an NBA head coach.
Name recognition.
They thought that he was going to help guide them to develop the players, and I think the furthest they got was like round 1 of the NCAA tournament last year. They had one of the best players in all of college basketball, Colin Sexton, who plays for the Cavaliers now. But they just fired him like that. Well, they didn't fire him; they bought him out. They did
let him go.
Yeah, they did a buyout for him, and they said it was very pricey. But the thing is, like, for a team that was supposed to be really good, and I'm not sure what Avery Johnson was making. I'm assuming it was probably like the $5 to $10 million range. I'm guessing, compared to what other coaches like Saban and other top college football coaches make. But I want to say it is not fair to the females, because when you think about players getting paid, what do you think about? College football.
Yeah.
Because the football makes the most money
Yeah.
out of all the sports, and that's what the most revenue also goes into football, not just profit, but also revenue as far as like the stadiums being built.
I would make an argument football or basketball depending upon the school.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So, because Duke is
Yeah,
probably
like
making
Duke,
a lot more money
then
off
Exactly. You know,
especially with where they play like 21 games in a season or something like that for college basketball.
yeah, something like 20-something games.
So they play
Yeah.
about 20 games in a season. In football, you're going to play 12. So,
And 6 of them are at home.
yeah.
So
I think it's going to become even more of a problem when if they do decide to pay the players, because then you have to go off of, number one, why are they getting paid? Are they getting paid to cover food whenever they want it? Are they getting paid to help them pay for transportation, to get a car or something like that? Are they getting paid to help family with bills? Why are they getting paid? And then number two, how are they going to get paid? I guess how are they going to get paid? Is it going to be cash? Is it going to be like vouchers for stuff?
or like they're a paid employee of the university.
Yeah, that. Or there's going to be like a was it W-9 or W-2, or was it
Your W-2, yeah.
W-2? What's the 9 thing? Where you just like you're contracted out?
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Oh, if you're like a contract worker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't think of it. I'm pretty sure something 9. Anyways, it might be W. But anyways, so there's that, and then there's the fact of how do you are you going to tier the people? So
Or like which sports get paid which? Is it, women's, do women's sports get paid because they don't make any money for the university? They only
Exactly.
drain money? That presents an interesting situation for how do you go about doing that?
Yeah.
Once again, above my pay grade, but I don't know. That's an interesting question when it comes to the fairness. Like you said, you want everybody to be treated fairly, but at the end of the day, your women's softball team, no matter how great they are, they're not bringing in the same amount of revenue that your undefeated Nick Saban Alabama football team is making. Just because of the sheer size of the sport, I would say, that's not to say women's their softball isn't exciting, because I'm sure it is. Not that I watch a lot of women's softball, but
I don't watch baseball or softball.
yeah, I mean, I do. I enjoy baseball, but yeah, that's an interesting. How do you go about tier? Like you said, a tier maybe where, if you bring in this amount of money, but once again, you're gonna have your people saying that's unfair. So it's like you either pay no one or you pay everybody.
Yeah.
And how do you decide who gets what? And because in my opinion, your football player, if they blow their knee out, they have way more on the line than somebody in another sport that's not necessarily like rowing. Are you going to pay all your rowing people?
Yeah.
Are they risking the same amount for a foot, as opposed to a football player?
So do college athletes, so like when an athlete tears his ACL and needs surgery or breaks his leg or something like that, do they have insurance through the school, or is it just their family's insurance?
I think they have it through the school.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact. I would imagine they do. I would imagine it's pretty good because they have team doctors, and
Yeah.
I know you are covered somewhat, just even as a student through your university, through certain things. Like they have
Gotcha.
little minute clinics that you can go into.
Yeah, that's
At
right.
least at Iowa they did. But yeah, to me there's just such a difference between your football player who can blow out their knee and their career. I mean, with medical technology, they get back on the field pretty quick, but there are your cases where they don't get back on the field, and yeah, they get a great, possibly a great education, but that's not their ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is to make serious amounts of money with that, big rookie contract when they get to the NFL. So,
And going back to what you were talking about, so which was really the point I was trying to make. I'm glad you started thinking about the same thing. So the tier. So if you have somebody like, you think UConn, you think basketball. UConn's men's
even
basketball
women's
team,
basketball too.
and women's basketball team. I forgot that UConn had a football team.
Yeah.
So if the UConn women's basketball team with what's Gino Uriema or whatever his name is, if they are consistently losing like 3 games a year and they're playing 20 and they're just dominating the field, do you go off of like your record, and not your record, but like how well the team did? So it's like women's basketball team, congratulations, you did pretty well. Men's basketball team, you still suck.
Yeah.
So the women get the portion of the money that the
Yeah.
NCAA gave us, and the men, you get the 8th place tier of money that the NCAA gives us.
I don't know. And yeah, once again, how do you figure that out? Because then, okay, you're basically paying them for wins.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. You're paying for wins.
And that's betting.
Yeah, and that's yeah, exactly. And that, I don't know, it just spurred something in my head, kind of back to these parents paying for their kids to come in. They were doing it under the ruse or the illusion of a sham charity. Mm-hmm. But you look at the parents that just flat out in open daylight donate money to this college as their kid is applying. How is that not illegal? Why is them doing it? I guess because it's fraud. They're doing it through a sham charity. But how is that not fraud? Donating millions of dollars as your kid is applying to get in. Of course, the university is going to give you a look way more than me. I applied and I just sent in the $150 application fee as opposed to $150 million. As whoever's rich ass parents can afford to pay for them to do that.
And just thinking about people. Okay, so do you know how much money this parent was paying? Do you know a figure?
They ranged. I think what I saw, the smallest was, and this was a wide range of parents. The 2 that got the most attention were the celebrities. The one was Lori Loughlin, and then the lady from. She's married to the guy from Shameless, Frank from Shameless. I can't think of her name right now, but anyway, these 2 are the ones that got the most attention because they were the most high-profile names. But it was, I think, from what I remember, like hundreds of parents that were doing this, and they ranged anywhere from, I think I saw $50,000 at a minimum to $1.5 million that they were paying to go through this.
So let's think about this. If you're a parent, first of all, why are you paying extra money? What are you teaching your child?
Yeah. What life lessons are you teaching?
What life lesson are you teaching your child that you need to pay more money to make sure that they go to a specific school? And then let's think about the financial mathematics situation. You're paying, you said at the most that you heard of was $1.5 million.
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest with college education, but I'm pretty sure USC doesn't cost $1.5 million.
No.
So you're telling me that these parents were paying more money to get the kid through the school than it is to just
into.
Yeah.
Just into.
to get the kid into the school than it is to actually pay for the education.
Yeah.
That means that you're already setting them up for an extreme deficit. Because not only are they just getting into the school at, let's just say, $1 million, they get into the school at $1 million. Now you have to pay for the actual education after that.
Yeah.
And so
then they suck and you got to pay for all the tutoring and shit, because they're idiots and they shouldn't have gotten into the school anyway, and they're more worried about Instagram, worrying about YouTube and Instagramming people, or being influencers on Instagram, because they don't. In that video, she said it was such bad timing too, because and she had put it out a couple years ago that she was like, I don't really care about school, I'm just here for the parties. So it was such piss poor timing, and I'm sure that's why they released it, or somebody found it and released it because of everything that was going on. But yeah, it's amazing that they'll pay at a minimum $50,000, which is probably what it costs as in-state to go to USC. I don't know that for a fact, but I would imagine it's around somewhere in there. And then they have to pay for the actual education itself, which is not a big deal for these rich parents, but you're setting your kid, in my opinion, you're setting your kid up for failure instead of telling them, look Johnny, you suck, you should go to a JUCO, get your education somewhere else. But that also goes back to the prestige of these institutions and what it means to have. They decide to make up, spend a bunch of money and send their kid to USC fraudulently somehow instead of realizing that they just kind of suck and they should probably go somewhere else as opposed to this long, these schools that have these names, these big names attached to them, and they're put, whether they're going because it's a party school or because all of their family have gone there, like a Harvard or one of your Ivy Leagues. So that's it's hard to see, especially going back to what we said earlier, when you got to think how many kids didn't get to go where they wanted to go because of this, and the lasting effects, what this scandal is going to, like the lasting effects in the sense of it's going to sow discord within the whole application process and the whole process of getting into a college. Like, now looking, if I was 17, 18 years old, going to apply to a college, would I think that my application wasn't getting a good look because some rich fuck's parents were paying for them to get a better look than me?
Absolutely.
It's just it's such a shame that happened the way that it did. And it's nothing surprising because it's like one of those things where you probably know it's happening, you just don't see it.
Yeah.
And you don't know about it specifically, but now that it's out and you kind of knew it was happening in the first place, and now you see it, you can attach a name and a face and everything to it.
Yeah.
It's got to be disheartening. I can't even imagine trying to apply for college right now, thinking, am I even going to get a look because I only spent the $150 fee to get in, instead of $1.5 million to have some fraudulent charity Photoshop my head on a stock photo of an athlete to get me in as a scholarship. That was another thing. They when the kid, I forget which specific example, but when the kid showed up on campus, they had to fake an injury for like 8 months because the kid wasn't actually able to play basketball or whatever the sport was. So they had to like fake an injury until they said, oh, well, they're not medically cleared to play, to the coach. And that brings up how is it people just go, plausible deniability, like see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil if they don't see it? Or, and then the other thing is they claim that the kids had no idea. How the fuck do you have any no idea? Honestly, you're even dumber than I thought you were. You shouldn't be at USC because you had no idea your parents were cheating for you.
Yeah. How
do you not know? They get you see, oh, I'm here on a rowing scholarship. I've never rowed in my life. How the fuck did that happen? So it's wild that happened, and I think it's going to leave lasting effects for years to come, especially as the whole, because they were just arraigned on their charges whenever that story broke. And those were just the two the celebrities that were arraigned on their charges. So I can't even imagine how the investigation in the case is going to go further through a court process. Who's just going to plead guilty? Who's going to actually take it to trial? So it's going to get really interesting.
What I'm interested in seeing is, I guess, as you were talking about how students react to it, because if the numbers start to change, numbers go down, people aren't going to the schools as much. If you've got people who are consistently going to these top tier schools and then they realize, something like this is going on, I got denied. There's something, they'll start thinking something's going on.
Yeah, and why? Yeah. Was it just because I wasn't good enough, or was it because something else was going on?
Exactly.
And that's the biggest thing is, everyone's scared of the unknown and what's going on. Before you just kind of assumed it was, okay, well, I wasn't good enough, or they weren't accepting me based upon X. And now you don't get accepted and you're like, is it because, I didn't donate millions of dollars, or have my parents, pull some strings or do whatever it may be.
Even for the athletes. So if you've got, if you've got an athlete who they think they belonged at a certain school or whatever, and the schools, you were talking about it's, it's going on, but you don't really see it. So everybody knows athletes are getting stuff under the table.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. But it doesn't really come out much other than the kid rats himself out. So there was,
or the feds get involved. Yeah, I've started to see that of late, where the feds are getting involved. There was something with the basketball.
Yeah, but I'd say wasn't it a basketball team?
Yeah, I didn't really. I think it was LSU or what. I don't remember what school, but anyway, Your federal government is starting to get involved because there's so much money going on.
Yeah, there was so the kid's name is Nolan Smith, and he was a defensive end. I think he went to that IMG Academy, and I think he had like just signed his like letter of intent with Georgia, and the kids National Signing Day. Even the athletes are on Twitter, and the fans are the worst because we're like, so and so didn't want to come to our school because he was afraid of competition and stuff like that. But Nolan, I think he tweeted, I want to say the night before signing day or the day of signing day, he goes outside and it's like videotaping his truck. I don't know his parents, but I mean to have the ability to go to IMG, I know you have to have some money. Well, I mean they do get scholarships.
Scholarships, yeah, that's another big thing too. Recruiting and then paying scholarships.
But I mean he's videotaping his truck and it's like a brand new like Raptor. I mean it's a nasty truck. But people, everybody's commenting on the video that he posted. He's like, "Oh, look at my beautiful truck" and stuff like that. And people are like, "I guess that check cleared."
Yeah.
Kirby Smart got
just in time. Yeah.
So I mean, it's an ongoing thing, man. People are always going to have something to say about it, and athletes are going to be. The kids are going to be kids, man. They're gonna be posting stuff. People are going to speculate. I know there's a bunch of like Alabama players. They'll be posting pictures of like them next to their car. Some of them will be next to like brand new Camaros, brand new Chargers and stuff like that. And some of them, they don't have those things. Some of them have beaters.
Yeah.
And it's
like you said, it's one of those things where you don't. It hasn't fully, officially come out yet, to my knowledge anyway. Yeah. But you see it, you kind of know what's going on.
Absolutely.
But no, and that kind of you said the high school when it comes to recruiting, it goes on there too. High school football is huge.
Yeah.
I would in Alabama with you have Hoover and you have these big, humongous football high schools.
Yeah.
Where they're paying people to come in. We don't know that for a fact, but I would imagine they're paying for these private schools. And I use, there's a school about 15 minutes away from where I grew up in Fort Lauderdale called St. Thomas Aquinas.
St. Thomas.
Yeah, St. Thomas Aquinas. and I had a bunch of friends that went there. I knew a few people on the football team.
Yeah.
They recruit. They have to. And obviously I don't know that for a fact, but they recruit kids to come in and play at their school. And you look at their roster over the year. I mean, they've had everybody from Michael Irvin to the Bosa brothers come to St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
And they recruit. They're not supposed to, but they recruit. And because they're a private Catholic institution or high school, they have to pay for them to get in. And a lot of these kids are coming from backgrounds where their parents are not paying for this tuition. It's the school paying for it because they can play football.
So now we've broken down the NCAA. Now we're going to high school. And
it's pervasive. It runs to everything.
So you have to think about, okay, so look at Florida. I guess the big, I want to give them the benefit of doubt. Let's say the big four. Georgia. All right. So Georgia it's a fact. It's not even a guess. It's a fact that Georgia has the best players in high school football per capita. So Georgia doesn't have nowhere near as many the population as Florida. So the big four, I would say, are California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida.
Yeah.
They by far have the best athletes per capita, or not per capita, but per
just
population
in general,
in general. But Georgia has the best per capita. But when you look at those schools, so do you know about Allen, Texas? I think the high school is actually Katy.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Or it might be Allen, but one of the two. But that stadium looks like a pro football stadium, like it looks, or at least a JUCO or a college football stadium. I want to say the D3 national championship was at Allen High School football stadium. That's insane. Yeah. The money that is going into that stadium. And so I went to Aniana High School, and where I'm from, the name of your city is the same name of your high school. Like there's just one school per city, but The school I went to was a city school, and then the rest of the schools in the county were all county schools. So they shared their money, and then my high school, our money was our money or whatever. But I mean, that's the dumbed down version. I don't know how that actually the money disperses, but we have a good bit of wealthy people that lived in my city, and the money showed. We would get stuff that the other schools just didn't have because they didn't have the money, and that's a huge thing for schools like schools that are out in California and out in Texas and Florida. They're probably got a lot of, as you said, Michael, I'm pretty sure there was a story that came out a few years ago. Michael Irvin donated like $1 million to St. Thomas Aquinas.
And that's another way they get their money too, is through donations of former stars coming back and paying it forward.
Exactly. And so that probably gave them that little bit of extra money to go out to some kid that lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and get him to come down to St. Thomas and play football.
Or even if they're still within, Broward County, Florida, where St. Thomas Aquinas is, but they're, they live in northern Broward County and they're not, technically they're zoned for a high school up there, but they pay them to come down and bust them down every day to go to school and play football at St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot about that. I think there was I want to say there was a 30 for 30 on, or if it wasn't a 30 for 30, it might have been like an E60 on, it was like betting in Little League football, and it was like straight Florida. It was like Southern Florida.
They even, if you watch the U, I don't know if you're the 30 for 30, the U part 1 and part 2. They mentioned that about how they're, they're high school kids, and they're like, I got $10,000 on this game. It's crazy the amount of money and the amount of betting. Because back when the Orange Bowl was still there, and they still move games to bigger venues because there's so many fans and there's so much hype around high school football games in South Florida. They'll move them to bigger venues where there's 20, 30,000 people that show up for a high school football game. Yeah. That's more than some smaller football schools get. You know, it's just crazy the amount of attention that's brought to football.
Absolutely.
And I'm guilty. I love it. So I perpetuate it. Yeah. I love it. So, and even the money involved with recruiting, just recruiting itself. You have ESPNU that puts out rankings, and there's people dedicated to figuring out who's going where. There's the ESPN.
That's their job.
That's their job. It's their job. Like, how do you get that job? I want to do that job. Go watch high school football. Yeah. That's crazy. That's almost as cool as being, you're an expert at fantasy football. How do I get that job? How do I get that? They sit there and they watch football, and it's just crazy to me. And they make predictions on. It's like doing the fucking weather. Like, you're wrong 50% of the time, and there's no. I mean, you can use statistics and analytics, but you never know what's going to happen until they play the actual game. So
absolutely,
that's crazy. Yeah, fantasy football analyst. I see those guys on ESPN. I'm like, man, where did I go wrong in life? How do I get that job?
yeah, truly. All right, so we went on a tangent about all these different things. I mean, there's so many different things from start to finish on getting the money to the players, how they're going to disperse it, and it's just going to be ongoing. They started talking about having a playoff in college football, probably like I think it was about that 2003 era with USC, and then they brought it down because now it's been it started in 2014.
14 or 15, yeah.
So I mean, it took about 10 years or so for them to actually start implementing a playoff. So this stuff is the money. It's been going on for a while, years and years and years. So it's going to be a while. But it was great talking to you about this stuff. We might get to squeeze in another one in here.
We only have one more weekend left after this. So.
Yeah. So let's continue to think about this kind of stuff because it's crazy what the money's going to, and I think people kind of like to throw it under the rug, but if they don't talk about it, then nothing's gonna happen. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.